In this first video, I'll show you how to create our new database called Events, and then I'll show you how to insert a first record into a collection called October. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to start MongoDB running. So here I will issue the MongoD command in my terminal window, and you'll see that it starts up MongoDB. Notice we get a warning here, soft R limit's too low. And we're actually going to get that same warning in the other terminal window. So I'm going to switch to a new terminal window and I'm going to say Mongo, which will start the MongoDB shell. And here's that same warning, soft R limit's too low. That happens if you don't have enough files available. It's important for a production machine, but when we're working in our own development environment, it shouldn't matter. We're not going to be working with very many files, with very large files. So that warning you can ignore. Okay, now, by default, it's working with the test database. You see it says connecting to test. But we want to create a new database. And so what I'll say is use events. And so it says switch to database events. If it doesn't prior exist, then it creates it on the fly. Otherwise, it opens that database. So that's the database we're working with. And what I'll do now is I'll say show collections. And this will show all of the collections in the database, and you can see there aren't any. So this is a brand new database with no collections at this point. Okay, next up we're going to insert our first record. So we'll do db.october.insert. And let's talk about what this does just briefly. db says work with the current database. October says work with the collection October, which doesn't exist yet, so it'll create it as we go. And insert says we're going to insert a record. And what I'll do is I'm going to type out the details of this first record. So I begin with a parenthesis and a brace, and I'm going to hit enter here, and you'll see that I'm allowed to work on multiple lines. Those three dots means it's waiting for the rest of my input. So I don't have to type everything out on one line. I can actually work on multiple lines. And so the first field that I'm going to insert in this record is going to be event, and it's going to be called Dog Days of Kalamazoo. And again, I can go to a new line, or I can keep working on the current line. The event type is going to be a chapel service. Notice that after each field I'm putting a comma. The facilitator is going to be Wendy Kinnison. And I can put multiple on one line if I want, so sponsor is going to be Kalamazoo College. And then we get to speakers, and we note that there are 3 speakers. So what I'll do is I'm going to do a bracket, and then I'm going to insert the 3 names inside the brackets. So the first is Diane Seuss. The second is John Fink. And the third is T. Jefferson Smith. If you're curious, these are actual professors at Kalamazoo College, but these events are completely made up. And then we're going to put the date, and I want it actually stored in date format, so I'll use the ISO date function from within JavaScript. And then we'll say 2014-10-04. So I'll put it in the proper order for insertion. And the time of the event, I'm going to make that a numeric variable, and I'll say 1150 hours. So I'm using military time. And then close my brace, close my parentheses, hit enter, and we'll see that one event has now been inserted into this collection. So I could do db.october.find, and it'll find all of the records in the October collection in this database. And you can see there's just the one, and it's got that listed in JSON format, or BSON format, which is very similar to JSON format. If I don't want to do db october find, I'll hit the up arrow and it'll bring the last command that I issued, which is convenient. If I just want to know how many records there are, I can also do db october count and see that there's one record inserted. And that's it. We've entered our first event.